My name is Mike Phillips. I'm on the faculty here at IVCC. I'm also a member of the Faculty Advisory Council of the Illinois Board of Higher Education. Back in March, a number of different groups representing faculty, both unions and other organizations representing faculty at higher education in Illinois, started discussing what can we do. The budget impasse in Springfield has been causing probably more damage to higher education than almost anything else in the state of Illinois. We've gone without a real budget for over 2 years now, and we're looking around and saying, what kind of action can we take? So a decision was made to organize what they called a Teach Out on April 27th, which is today. Some faculty members and their students are heading down to Springfield. In fact, they're rallying in Springfield right now as we speak. The discussion that we had here on campus was we felt it would be much more impactful if we did something here on campus to raise awareness in our community of the impact that this is happening. It's kind of a slow, quiet problem that a lot of people haven't been paying attention to, and it kind of creeps up. And it impacts students when they don't get financial aid. It impacts faculty and students when classes are canceled. It impacts the whole college community when we have to not replace positions that become open when someone leaves. So we see little impacts all across campus, and we wanted to have an opportunity to share that with the community at large and hopefully get a little publicity and get the word out that something needs to happen. We need funding for higher education. So what we're going to do today as part of this Teach Out is use this as kind of a classroom. We're going to have statements from a few people talking about the impact. I'm going to share a little bit from the Faculty Advisory Council to the Illinois Board of Higher Education on which I serve. We passed a resolution earlier in this month, and so it kind of details some of the impacts that we've seen around the state at different colleges and universities. So I'm going to share some of the information from that, and then we're going to kind of open it up for questions. I have to leave at 12:30 to teach my oceanography class, and I'm going to take a couple of my students with me when I go, because that's what we're here for. We're here to teach students, and unfortunately, this budget impasse that's been going on for 2 years has really impacted our ability to do our job and for our students to do what they come here to do, which is learn and advance themselves. And so I'm going to read a few things off of this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Corcoran. You'll notice that here up front we have administration, we have faculty, we have students. This is impacting the entire college community. And we are together on this in urging Springfield to come up with something. It seems like they ought to be able to sit down and agree that higher education is important to the state of Illinois. So I'm not going to read this whole resolution, but I'm going to highlight some key points. Whereas students are adversely affected by the continued budget impasse by programs being eliminated, classrooms with insufficient supplies, larger class sizes due to lack of faculty, staff, and cuts in services offered to assist students. Whereas due to consistent underfunding of public higher education in Illinois, students face the 5th highest average public university tuition and fees in the country and the highest in the Midwest. Over 33,000 high school students left the state last year to attend out-of-state universities rather than pursue their degrees in Illinois. Higher education employees have been laid off, furloughed, and/or forced to take pay cuts and/or defer their salaries to keep higher education institutions' doors open. When adjusted for inflation, Illinois public higher education has suffered a 41% cut in funding between fiscal year 2000 and 2015. The stopgap appropriation passed by the Illinois General Assembly in June 2016 resulted in an over 78.5% cut in funding when compared to fiscal year 2000 adjusted for inflation, making it the single largest cut in higher education in the country. Between 2008 and 2015, Illinois has cut per pupil higher education funding by over 54%. We think our students deserve better. And so we want to have this conversation and say to our representatives and senators down in Springfield, you have to do something about this. The longer you wait, the more damage is done and the more difficult it will be for us to kind of fix that. So, Dr. Corcoran.
Thank you, Mike Phillips. I'm really happy that we have such a great turnout here today and so many people that are really vested in higher education. And I wanted you to know that, first of all, I want to recognize a couple people from our Board of Trustees. Jay McCracken is here, newly elected member of the Board of Trustees, and to my left, Jane Getz, our newly elected chair of the Board of Trustees as well. Both committed to higher education, great team players, and looking forward to working with them for many years to come. Some other folks that we work very closely with, team players, and had a great relationship, include Chris Dvorak from the LaSalle County Regional Office of Education. Happy to have your support here today. And then Jill Gwynn. Jill is the Regional Director for the 4-county region for the LaSalle, for the University of Illinois Extension Office that coincidentally is housed on campus. We also, just to give you a little background on some of this, as you can probably imagine, with the size of the college's district, all are parts of 8 counties, 2,000 square miles wide. When you take that into account, we talk about the legislators that work on our behalf. That includes 6 state senators and 8 representatives. And we are always engaged in dialogue with them to let them know where we're coming from and some of the challenges that we're facing. And I can say without any reservation that we're really lucky, as I mentioned, board members and ROE and extension, our legislators really know where IVCC is on the map, and they do everything to support us. Now, the 2 legislators with whom we probably have the most dialogue, for obvious reasons, would be Representative Jerry Long from Streeter and Senator Sue Rezin from Morris. And we've had both of those individuals on campus several times in the last few weeks to make them aware of what impact this budget impasse is having on all of us. And so I was pleasantly surprised, actually, late yesterday afternoon when I received an email from Representative Jerry Long's office. And a gentleman said to me that regrettably Representative Long wouldn't be able to join us today. Now, we knew that when Mike and I and Steve Alvin first started talking about today's program. We knew that they're in session. They're trying to resolve their differences. So we didn't invite all 14 representatives to be here because we've already had our conversations with them. But I thought it was kind of above and beyond the call of duty for Representative Long to tell me that although he couldn't be here, he wanted me to read something on his behalf. And that is this, quote, "I'm very sorry I couldn't attend today's discussion. I'm currently in Springfield to hopefully aid in resolving this budget crisis. As your elected official in the General Assembly, my main focus at the moment is working to make sure that the eventual budget is balanced and fair. Higher education funding has been an unfortunate, boy, you can underline that word, has been an unfortunate victim of the political games in Springfield, and I will do everything I can to help right the ship. Please reach out to my office with questions or if I can be of any assistance." In the interest of fairness, I then contacted Senator Rezin's office because I said, want to make sure everybody's on the same page here as to what's going on. And although we didn't invite you to this session, I want you to know that Representative Long sent something. Is there something you'd like for me to read on behalf of you as well? And she was always, as she has always been, so responsive to our needs. And she wrote back, her paragraph's just a little longer, but important points, so bear with me. And here's what Senator Rezin said, quote, "Thank you for inviting me to your forum regarding the state budget, funding for higher ed. I'm in Springfield this week for session, so I can't be there. The bottom line to all our financial problems is really basic. We need a full year balanced budget. Passing a full year balanced budget that combines structural reforms to state government that allows the state to pay its bills on time, such as schools, grow the economy and bring job creators here, is of the essence." Like Jerry Long, higher education has unfortunately been one of the bigger victims of the budget impasse. The games must end. As negotiations continue, it's important that we prevent this impasse from dragging on any further. It's vital that we do what is best for the taxpayers of Illinois what's best for the state as a whole. As a member of the higher ed and education committees in the State House, and a member of the 2 education funding reform commissions, I will continue to advocate for IVCC higher ed and K through 12 education, and most importantly, our students, to ensure that our students receive what they deserve. Thank you for all that you do. I say that as a backdrop for this. I couldn't help but smile, honestly, as I was walking down the hall to enter this room and I passed the cultural center. And I thought, boy, there's been a lot of theater, at the state level going on too long. And how has it affected IVCC? I'll tell you how it's affected IVCC. I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers, but I'm going to share some light on the challenges that we, our Board of Trustees, administration, outstanding faculty, and dedicated staff have had to deal with lately. For a number of years, again, this is 10 years worth of data, so you're not going to be able to jot it all down, but there's a point here. The total state funding to IVCC for the last 10 years had varied between $3.5, $3.6, $2.9, $4 million. Fiscal year 15, keep this in mind. Fiscal year 15, the money that we got from the state, $3.1 million. And I say that because what we got the next year, fiscal year 16, when the budget impasse began, we went to 611,000. We went from 3.1 million to $611,000. Now, when they came up with the community college system years ago, the game plan was funding was supposed to come equally from 3 directions: student tuition and fees, state support, property tax revenue. Just like when you sit on a stool, 3-legged stool, if one is out of balance, then it shifts the weight to the other 2 legs of the stool. And so what's happened when the state hasn't paid its fair share and dropped off as it did to roughly 1/4 of what we've been getting, then that's had devastating consequences on all of us. And at the end of the day, when you take into account one of the other sources of funding to support the college, that is property tax revenue, and we've seen the assessed valuation for the college district. Last 5 years, we've seen a drop of 1.09%. So talk about the perfect storm. The state doesn't step up to the plate and help us out. Assessed valuation for property tax revenue is dropping. And what's left? What's the last leg on the stool? Student tuition and fees. So what's happened with student tuition fees? Oh my goodness, they have gone way up, because we want to continue to do what we can to hire and retain the best quality faculty we can, so that you get the best return on your investment when you come here. Because our outcomes have been extraordinary for years. That's the history of this college. Extraordinary outcomes. Our people, when they leave here and they go on to a 4-year institution, better than those students that are transferring from other colleges, and better than native students in terms of GPA. When our students leave here and they go to work, they are more well prepared to meet the expectations of the employers that they work with after their experience at IVCC. Quality is what we've been known for many years, and I'll tell you, we're never going to back off from that. So yes, we've had to raise tuition significantly, about 40% over the last 5 years, because the state has not stepped up to the plate, and because the assessed valuation has dropped. And as Mike Phillips said a few minutes ago, that has resulted in where you've seen mass layoffs at other community colleges and universities across the state. We've been able to manage our situation the best we can through attrition. And we don't like that, because at the end of the day, we need everybody. We need the A-team stepping up to the plate to serve you, our students. So we're making the best we can, but we need the help of the state. And personally, I'm sick of the political theater, and I'm sick of the poor results. And I don't feel like throwing anybody under the plate, under the deck. I'm just telling you that at the end of the day, the results haven't been there to support IVCC like we deserve. So I hope that the state can come to agreement on the current budget situation. I hope that there is what they are calling now a lifeline budget that will be tossed to higher education to get us through for another few weeks And I hope like heck that there is consensus on a fiscal year 18 budget so that we can move on and continue what we've been doing for so many years. Serve our students with distinction so that our students can have every advantage when they transfer out to a senior institution or go to work. Those are my thoughts and comments. Mike, would you like to go next? Take you 15 minutes to get out of here.
So what we're going to do now is have a few students speak and a few faculty members speak, and have Jane Getz speak on behalf of the board. I want to start with Christian because he has to go to class in 10 minutes.
Hi everyone, my name is Christian Mendez. This is my third year at IVCC. And so I kind of want to just give my thoughts on and my experiences here at IVCC on how the MET grant and the financial aid has helped me a lot. So I honestly don't think I would be having such a great time here at IVCC if it wasn't for the MET grant, if it wasn't for IVCC helping me out with all that. They paid for my MET grant and my financial aid this year, and so a big thank you to IVCC for that. And I just wanted to share my experiences. I wouldn't be able to accomplish and learn as much as I did without having to worry about how am I going to pay for my tuition, how will I pay for my books, and how am I going to get through school with my bills at home and then everything else on top of that. With the MET and financial aid, I was able to become vice president for the STEM leadership team, secretary of student government, vice president for the project success leadership team. I wouldn't be able to help out as a Rent Quinn as much for the shadow program, and I wouldn't be able to be involved with everything else here. So how the MET grant really helped me out with that, so that I can be involved and learn life lessons and meet new people. And the fact that it has to come out of IVCC's pocket is actually kind of sucks, because they could use that for other things. You know, they can add more classes, hire more teachers, do more things with that kind of money that they're using on the students in order for us to have a higher education and still be able to be involved and enjoy the time here and learn what we need to learn in order to do everything that's being done here at IVCC. So once again, I just want to say thank you again to IVCC and to everyone else here who helped me get through school here, and hopefully, I mean, these problems are changed, and hopefully problems are fixed to where we won't have to worry about something else like that, and we can, you know, just continue on with our education here at IVCC. Thank you.
And I think I'm going to ask Jean to go next, and one of her students is here as well, so I'm going to have them speak next. And if I have to go, Jared, do you mind taking the podium? Thanks.
I'm Jean Basson-Turner. I was recruited to come here to IVCC to develop a human services program. I had many years teaching sociology, and I'd also been a very active agency partner in several cities. So it was a perfect transition, and I was very grateful for the privilege to be able to come here. And the only problem I've had since my transition is the weather, and I have new tires in my car and I'm getting adjusted. So, but I developed the program from scratch, and I am tremendously impressed by the faculty and staff here and the students that I work with. So it challenges me every day. As you are probably guessing, I am not from here originally. I didn't come back to Illinois. I was born in South Carolina, and I had the privilege to be socialized and nurtured in a family where education was the #1 value. My grandfather, that I never got to meet, was the educator in the family. And he nurtured 12 children for a love of education. And this is a post-depression story, but a triumphant story. As those 12 siblings worked their way through college, where many of the men went to Clemson, and there were not as many opportunities for women at the time. Many ended up being educators, nurses, some were pilots in the works. Anyway, these individuals, when one completed a college education, that sibling worked the next sibling in line for a college education. So that's the legacy that I have that was given to me. So I instill in the utmost shock of what is going on here in Illinois. I never ever thought that I would live in a time when state universities and colleges would be at risk of closing, because education has been so vital in my life. So we continue to work forward. The Human Services Program has an advisory board, which is made up of over 20 agency partners. And many of these agency partners have been also with funding reductions from the state because of human services. But they have benefited very much from the internships and the student service volunteers. This training is critical for the development of competencies for the human services students who acquire staff positions in these agencies and programs. So you know that we are a community college, and we influence the community in so many ways. Very recently, a United Way director kind of caught me off guard and said in a telephone conversation, "Jean, you do not know what a difference you have made in the community." And she's talking about because of the work of the program and the students that are in our agencies. State funding is vital to support the continuation of this community-based human services training program and to provide financial support for our students. I am challenged by these dynamic students who have overcome many difficulties, and so they deserve our support. So I hope that all of us as a community will come together to have a bearing on our politicians to quit this theatrics. And I think the best way for you to really hear this message of how important it is for the students is in the voice of one of my students, Teresa.
Hi everybody, my name is Teresa Gama, and I'm sorry I wasn't prepared to speak. They just told me to come. They got me, okay. I started my education with adult education. I had to learn English because I came here to the United States when I was like 17 years old. I didn't finish my junior high in Mexico, so I learned English first, and then I was able to get my GED. And then after that, I applied for financial aid, and the only way for me to come here, it was through the financial aid. And for now, I'm getting my degree on human services, and I'm doing like my best. I'm trying my best because I have no extended family here. All my family are in Mexico. I just have 2 children, a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I have to provide for them. So I have a part-time job in the afternoon, and then I come to school during the day. And my 2 children are so excited and proud of me because we sit together to do our homework, and I'm very proud to say I'm getting A's on I think all my classes. I've been here for 2 years, and then the only way for me to continue my education is through financial aid. If I don't get that, it's gonna be the end of my education. And would like to share, just coming here to college, I became a better person. I'm helping my community every time I need, and especially at school with my children. And I think I'm a better mom. Actually, my children, they're not here to say something else. And I'm a tutor. now I'm teaching English. And today I was at the class and I heard Sara Escabel saying, out of 100% of the Hispanic community that they need to learn English, they're just helping 20%. So there's a lot of people out there who needs to learn English, and that's what I'm trying to do. Like all my service learning hours, I'm doing that, the adult education, teaching others to learn English. And then I keep telling them, they could continue their education. And if we don't get help, that's gonna be, the end, not just for me, but for a lot of people out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think those are really important stories that illustrate that as a community college, we're part of the community, we serve the community. The financial support that we get from the state is crucial to achieving that mission. And so now I'm going to invite Jane Getz. Oh, I was trying to, are you Dr. Getz?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but I could
Jane
jump
Getz.
in.
We're going to invite Jane Getz up. She's the new president of the IVCC board, and thank you very much for coming.
When I give my kids advice, I tell them it's from Dr. Getz. There was a quote from the Springfield State Register, Journal Register. I was just in yesterday, or 2 days ago. It said, every time we think Illinois financial's picture can't get worse, someone hits the accelerator on the vehicle that is driving the state is ever closer toward perdition. Last week, a new report made it crystal clear, if it hadn't already, that our leaders' failures at passing a budget has put higher education in Illinois on a high-speed collision course likely to end in a devastating crash. We are all here today because we don't want to see that crash. Our board is very concerned about that, and last year when we found out that the MAP grants were not going to be funded, we did. You are the most important thing to this community college, the students. And so we decided to fund those. And as Christian said, that was hundreds of thousands. We also decided to do that again this year. Can that go on forever? I don't think so. But hopefully in the future, in the near future, that budget will be passed. Not having a budget and the dollars that are supposed to be going to community colleges and universities, as was mentioned, many students have left the state. And my latest figure was that enrollment in public institutions in Illinois dropped 46,000 students. That's a lot. When you include Illinois in on the statistics for the whole United States, there was a drop of 1.8% there was an overall increase of a drop of 1.8% in students attending, but that was without Illinois. But if you put Illinois in those statistics, it was 3.2%. We know that it's at a critical time, and I would never have run for this office, but someone saw that in me. I've been in education for over 40 years. My father, just as you mentioned, instilled that. He never said education was important, but I could see it. His family came from Italy, and he was the firstborn in this country. They took him out of school at 6th grade, but he was very good and had a good job all his life. But he saw that his 5 siblings did attend a college or a university. And so that made education important for me. My teaching, being a principal, and now being part of IVCC, and the quality that we have here, we do need to stand up for it and let our voice be known in Springfield. I appreciate this time. Thanks.
Thanks, Jane. I'm going to keep my comments brief, and then I'll turn it over to everybody else. I think it's important to underline the importance of this moment for IVCC in particular, because up until this point, administration and our faculty and our staff have made the hard choices and the sacrifices necessary to keep IVCC from experiencing the kind of devastating cuts that many other institutions of higher education in Illinois have experienced. But, of course, that can't go on forever. And so it's especially important that everybody here, whether you are a student or a member of IVCC in some other way, to speak out, to make your voices heard, contact your representatives, and put as much pressure on Springfield as possible to resolve this. Because the last thing we want is for this to impact the quality of the education that IVCC can provide in any other way. It's worse than it already has. So, with that, we can open it up to any questions that you might have for members of the panel. Okay. Yeah.
I got a question. I was just curious, similar to that recent ballot we had with the lockbox on transportation, was there any like whispers in politics, put a lockbox on education at all to maybe solidify funds for events like this?
No. I don't think anybody's aware of the lockbox.
On the recent ballot, they had that lockbox for like transportation for bare minimum funds that had to go to that direction. I was. No?
So you're saying there was a proposed sort of a fiscal box
Yeah.
around higher education that could be provided?
Yeah, maybe, or no.
It's a great idea. It would be wonderful. I'm not aware of any changes imminent.
Okay.
Chris, did you want to speak to that? Or,
No,
Chris?
I had another question
Oh,
for you,
okay, all right.
if that's best, but, there's been a lot of talk regarding property tax freeze, and I wonder if you could talk how that would affect the college.
Significantly, again, what property tax freeze, again, when the state doesn't come through with its share of funding, then it shifts the burden to the student and the taxpayer. And one way or another, we need the revenue to continue our legacy for excellence. So, we're in a position now where we're maxed out. When you look at what our operating fund levy is compared to the state of Illinois, we're significantly below that amount, and so we're able to levy an additional tax, called an additional tax, to take us to the state average, so that our students are not at a disadvantage and we can continue to hire the first-class faculty. But again, if there's a property tax freeze, then everybody wants to save money one way or another in taxes. But at the end of the day, it's going to affect what we have in terms of operating revenue to work with. So that's the other side of it. Sounds great politically, but from a practical standpoint, something's got to give, Chris. That's the downside. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that what we've seen is in some instances where there had been talk of a property tax freeze, that has led to some districts levying perhaps just a shade more, thinking that down the road they would have to stay within that limit. And so there again, that's the flip side of going down that road too. It's just not, it's avoiding the obvious problem. And the obvious problem is people that are elected to get the job done are having a hard time listening to each other and communicating what we have to do to end up with something that's fair, balanced, reasonable, and ensures the quality. And instead, we've been involved in this political theater that I've said several times, and people aren't listening to each other. And we're not getting the results of the results aren't there. As we expect of our students, we expect better of our elected representatives too. Good question. Yes, Jerry.
I think I can add on to that, that property tax freeze. You're exactly right about that. It sounds great for the people that are uneducated about what a property tax freeze would do, especially to our education, our cities and our counties and townships. But part of that deal too, I think, was an offsetting, they were going to try to institute a tax on services. And I think some of that was going to be carved out for education to help with that property. If they implemented the property tax freeze, I think that tax was supposed to go in to help that. But I believe that grand bargain has pretty much all but failed. So there's bits and pieces that are getting implemented, but I believe, if you step back and look at the whole picture, that's the way I think it was supposed to come down. So,
Mr. Savage, you just spoke as a member of the LaSalle Elementary Board of Trustees, and he just wrote a paper recently about one of the problems that exists across the state in terms of how schools are funded. And so he knows very well that it takes a grand bargain. A lot of things have to come together to have a result. You can't cherry pick those items that are most politically palatable and end up with where we want to be and should be. Any other questions? Yes.
I don't really have a question about the statement. I would just like to thank all the students who are here today to show interest in this very, very crucial topic, and also for our administration and members of our staff who have risen to this occasion. I think it's incredibly important. I want to underscore how important it is that all of us work together to positively impact legislation with our legislators, because it's more important than ever right now that we work together at that, because sometimes we work in separate entities. We really need to draw together to help them understand how crucial this is. So kudos to all of you. Thank you very much for being here.
I couldn't say it any better. Thank you, Mr. McCracken. We're happy to have you on the Board of Trustees. I will tell you that earlier this week, I was part of a group that met with Senator Andy Manar, who is very much involved in higher ed funding and so forth, and he talked about what's being debated as we speak, if I'm not mistaken, is a lifeline budget, something that would throw a lifeline to higher ed to help us, deal with the next few weeks, but also going back to where they were, and that is a fiscal year 18 budget that would not only take us forward, but more money that would still come back to the districts for fiscal year 17. So, one way or another, we got to get something done. And what I fear, speaking candidly, is that at this point, we've heard some rumors where some people think nothing's going to happen until the 2018 election. We can't wait that long. Talk about the inevitable. We just can't wait, and it's not fair to those other community colleges or public universities in the state of Illinois. So waiting is not an option, and looking the other way is not an option. And stepping forward and doing your job is the only option. And I remind people that we vote with our feet, and so one way or another, if the folks that we have aren't listening or communicating with each other, and I have every confidence in the IVCC district that the 6 senators and 8 representatives that we have are very committed to IV. But across the state, there has to be a change in culture, because this just isn't working.
Jerry?
Yes.
Well, I like your mentioning of the lack of listening skills among the political leaders. This is a teach out. We're here, and we're about education. Could there be some sort of strategy? This is just something, a brainstorming idea. Could there be some sort of strategy where we would get together, all of us, to integrate listening skills into our courses for some sort of education or course on basic listening skills? We talk a lot about skills deficit in human services, but I'm just wondering, that's all.
Great point. People are talking, but they're not hearing what everybody else is saying. And we're all the victims of this, and that's not fair to the people that we serve, not fair to our students or the taxpayers.
So there are a lot of students in here, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but what as students can we do? I'm sure, like myself included, I'm sure a lot of us have no idea what we can do or what our part in this can be, because this is going to affect all of us, not just us that are sitting in this room, but anybody that's going to school. And me especially, I am very thankful for this money that we get to help us go to school. You know, I work full-time, go to school full-time, because I don't have the money to pay for it. So this helps me a lot. So as students, what can we do to maybe help, to maybe, you know, just anything? Because obviously, like you said, people are not communicating, people are not getting the picture here. Nothing's getting done.
You made excellent points. I will tell you that I was delighted when I saw that Representative Jerry Long, as the newly elected representative to the IVCC district, was appointed to the Community College Affordability Committee. So when I visited with him over in Streeter about a month ago, and we visited with him again, several of us, when he was on campus a week or two ago, we emphasized the affordability part of this whole issue. And he listened, and he just said, and what I read to you early on with his comments, you know, if there's anything that I can do to help right this ship, I hope that people will let me know. We'd be happy, more than happy, to share the information, public information, regarding how to go about getting a hold of your elected representative, your elected senator, because they need to hear what impact this is having on all of us, most especially our students. You mentioned, in fact, Christian's not here, but he had mentioned, and several others have, the monetary award program, which is the kind of like a Pell Grant at the state level. And when our board chair Jane Getz mentioned a second ago that we stood behind it, you know, people might find it interesting that that's a $500,000 commitment. And over a third of our students qualify for the monetary award program. So I'm very happy that we had the outstanding board support and administrative support and faculty, everybody talking and listening to each other to see what's at stake. I think every time there's an opportunity, we need to let also our state senators, our state representatives hear the same message, that this may sound great politically, but these are people that are being affected by these decisions. And it's going to take a long time to repair the damage that's been done. And waiting until 2018 in the next election, that's just not an option. We can't wait that long.
Tanya brings up a great point. I want to reinforce, I think, what Jerry said, that this meeting is not meant to be just an airing of grievances. We really want for people, students especially, to find out who your representatives are and contact them and make, speak your mind. I teach sociology, and there's a quote from Max Faber that I always repeat to my students. He said, "Politics is the slow boring of hard boards." And what he meant was that social change, political change happens when lots of people do the slow, hard work of pushing against a system that doesn't want to change. And so it's up to everybody to do those little things that they can. Contact your representatives and speak out.
Yes, please,
I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not, but I think your point is very well taken, and I would be happy if it would be helpful to you to help coordinate a meeting with interested students with Senator Resin's office, because I work pretty closely with her office quite a bit. So if you would like, I'll give you my contact information. If there are other students who would like to do that, I'd be more than happy to coordinate a meeting. She'd be more than happy to sit down with you, I know, and I'm sure Representative Long would as well, so we can help in facilitating that. Because I think for you to see them, letters are great, contacts are great, but sometimes that personal presence is very, very powerful. So if I can help in that regard, I'd be happy if you don't mind.
No, that'd be great. And just for the record, several weeks ago, they had what's called Student Advocacy Day on camp down in Springfield. And so we were fortunate to have, I know that Corey Thomas and I believe Mike Phillips as well, lined up a trip for our Student Government Association members to go and visit firsthand in the Capitol with Representative Long and State Senator Resin. Had a very positive experience. But I only say that because that's a half dozen, maybe, students. You know, the last time I looked, we had 3,600 students enrolled at IVCC for the spring semester. So there again, we'll be happy to get the contact information out regarding these two people in particular, Representative Long and State Senator Resin. And We want to make sure that your voices are heard. We want what's best for you.
And student organizations can, I don't want to use the term lobby, but can be more politically active than maybe we as faculty can in terms of some of the initiatives. But there could be all kinds of campaigns about this, led by the students here on campus. There's no reason not to have that at all.
Well, if there's nothing else, we sure appreciate your being here today. We hope that you have a great weekend. Okay.